Northwest Cavalryman Show, the podcast where your host, Rick Skolrud, discusses politics and news from Canada, the United States, and around the world from a conservative perspective. Warning: professionally offended people and liberal crybabies may be triggered. Viewer discretion is advised. While we put the finishing touches on this podcast, you are invited to visit the show notes. There are links to all of Rick's social media, including his website where you can sign up to take the Canadian Firearms Safety Course, which is a prerequisite for obtaining your Canadian Firearms License, also known as a PAL. Rick teaches these courses in Maple Bay, just east of Duncan on Vancouver Island, British Columbia. Now here's your host, Rick Skolrud.
Hey everybody, how you doing tonight? I hope that there's some people online and joining in. It'd be kind of awkward if I'm just talking to myself. But, hello Nelson Cade from New Brunswick. The place I was born, not my home province, that's British Columbia, because that's where I grew up. But I was born in New Brunswick. So welcome, Nelson. Anybody else out there, say hello. So I got a number of things I wanted to talk about tonight. Hopefully I don't go too long or maybe too short, depends. Because whenever I have a lot of things to talk about, it seems to go really fast. And when I don't have very much to talk about, it seems to go really slow. Hello, Jennifer. How you doing tonight? So, I been having kind of a busy couple of weeks. I went to... Last week, I think I told you I went to Pender Island and gave a class out of Pender Island to a bunch of really nice people, very, very left-leaning people, very much fans of Dizzy Lizzy, but they're good people nonetheless. We're going to touch on one of the things that one of the students asked because, and I know I touched on it last week, but I'm going to do it again because it's very interesting and actually maybe even a little bit relevant to some things that have happened this week. Hello, Harley. Hello, Angus. Hello, Wendy. Everybody seems to be joining in now, which is great. Just a little housekeeping thing as usual. If somebody can give me a sound check. How are things coming through? Is there any echoes, any repeats, and how is the sound? Is it loud enough? Is it too loud? Am I chipping or whatever? So, if you can do that, that would be great. If you could let me know. So, hey Mark, hey Tracy, how's it going? Michelle, how you doing? So, first off, I wanted to one of the things I was wondering tonight, usually I have an order, which I'm very solid on the order of things that I want to put up and, what I'm going to get to first and second and third and whatnot. And this week I was just kind of a little, I don't know, just kind of a little all over the map. I didn't quite know what to put up first. Hello, Jessica, and hello, Sly. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this clip of Carney, and of course, I do want to qualify this as I believe it to be authentic, but there's always a possibility that it isn't. So we're just going to roll this, and then we can talk about it because it does sound like it's authentic.
We're going to manage to net zero by 2050. Actually, we're going to have specific targets by 2025 and 2030, so you can measure the short term. They don't say this quite as loudly, but what they're also saying and thinking, and we're going to make a lot of money off of this because actually this is the way the world's headed. I mean, I'm not sure exactly when we get there, but to be carbon competitive is going to be value creating.
So, yes, Tracy, it is a beautiful day on the island, around 20 degrees. At least that's what my computer is saying. Hello, Outer Heat and SA Bound. So I think, hey, Liz, You snuck in there. I didn't see you. So hopefully I got everybody. But yeah, so I think that just kind of shows you what kind of a person Mark's Carney is. Mark's Carnage Carney is. I've said that so often. It's almost like I can't say his first name without saying Mark's. But he does. Hello, Chris. Hello, Pam. I did know. I think that it is real. Matter of fact. Because it does sound like him. It sounds like a banker. He wants to make money, and it's all about making money for him. It's not really about the net zero. It's really all about the money, and I think that it speaks volumes for the type of person he is, because he's not been very honest with us, and I don't know why not everybody sees that. There's so many liberals out there who just don't seem to see the hypocrisy in this guy, and also all of the lies. He seems to think that he can get away with saying just about anything, and that he's not going to get called out on it. And to a certain extent, I think that maybe it's true that that's what he believes, because he's just keeping on lying. He's lying all the time. And with that, I think I'll go to my second clip, which kind of proves that he's lying, and then we can talk about this.
The President respected Canada's sovereignty today, both in his private and public comments.
Sources are telling Radio-Canada that Trump talked to Carney about Canada becoming the 51st state. That is something we did not hear from the Prime Minister's office after Trump and Carney spoke on March 28th.
March 28th, did President Trump bring up the idea of Canada becoming the 51st state during that call with you?
As I just said, the President brings this up all the time. He brought it up yesterday, he's brought it up before. There's a difference between a conversation that was held between leaders of government, which was this conversation, and a discussion that led directly to an agreement that as sovereign countries we would have negotiations about our partnership following the election on Monday. That's what the President and I agreed. That's what both of us reported back. And that's what I'm ready to do. And what's at stake in this election is how well we come together as a country for those difficult discussions with the Americans. And to be clear, I have said well before that call, and virtually every time that I've spoken since that call, that President Trump, the Americans, want to break us so they can own us. Those aren't just words. That's what's at risk. That's why we have to build Canada strong. That's why we have to go hard. That's why we have to negotiate properly. That's not why we have to build outside options. That's why we have the plan that we do.
I asked you about this on March 28th after the call, and you said that President Trump respected Canada's sovereignty both privately and in his public conversations.
He did.
Were you being truthful?
He absolutely did. He absolutely did. Look, the President has certain things in his mind that he reverts back to all the time. But treated me as the Prime Minister, not as something else. I'm not even going to say the word he used to use about my predecessor. Treated me as the Prime Minister. We had discussions as sovereign nations. We agreed as sovereign nations that these negotiations will begin after the election on Monday. And that is how it was reported back, and that's absolutely accurate. So that's the treatment. Now, the President says lots of things, but the essence of the discussion and where we moved the conversation to was exactly what I said. Treated us with respect as a sovereign nation. We have these negotiations coming, and that's, just to be clear, that is what's at stake. Both things are true. The desire of the Americans and the President to own us, those aren't just words. That's a desire. And the ability of Canada to stand strong, build our own, control our destiny, and in that context, as a sovereign nation, have those discussions.
Yeah, if you notice when he's talking there, his when he's lying, his voice goes up a little bit. But that's kind of how a lot of liars do it. So, hello, what's in your head? And hello, Ian. Chris, I think I said hello already. Lynn, how's it going? Glad to see you guys checking in. Richard from Red Deer, how's it going? And Chris again. Brad, thank you very much for that, Brad. Hello, Michelle. And I think I'm all caught up on who's checking in here. If I've missed you, I'm sorry. 3MTA3. Hello, how you doing? Oh, we do have a special guest. Justin Trudeau is online here. Apparently, Justin Trudeau voting for Pierre. Obviously, that's not real, but thank you for joining in, whoever that really is. Probably somebody who's been on the channel before and has just changed their name. Hello, and I'm not going to say your name, Ottawa. Yes. So, yeah, he's a liar. I mean, we all knew that. And he was lying. He's been lying all along. And I don't know why, liberals don't catch that. But it's almost like he's getting worse at it. Normally, if people lie a lot, they seem to get better at it. But he seems to be getting worse at it. Or maybe he's just been caught and he's just, freaking out at how much he's been caught. This time, it was so obvious that he was lying. His voice goes up a little bit. I think his voice actually cracked a little bit during that encounter a little bit as well. So, yeah, anybody who believes him is just totally out to lunch. And speaking of people who don't believe him, whatever you think of Yves-Francois Blanchet, he's a character. Definitely, he's a character. I actually kind of enjoy watching him and watching some of his exchanges in Parliament and whatnot. Not that I think he should be in Parliament because, they only exist in Quebec. But this is what Yves-Francois Blanchet had to say.
Seems more and more to have been a stunt. He wanted to make a statement. I am Mark Carney. I'm the best of them all. I'm a great negotiator. I have managed crisis in the past. I would change the world. Trust me. And it appears that it never happened. That the call was not what has been described afterwards. That there was no agreement, no support for Canada's sovereignty, no beginning for a deal, just the show of a man who wanted to pretend something which appears today not to be true. I believe many people in Canada and in Quebec will say, what the hell is that? And if that is not true, what else is not true?
Very good question. What else is not true? I think that there is a lot that isn't true, and I think that Yves-Francois Blanchet knows what's not true. He's just asking a rhetorical question. So, what do you guys think? How is he putting this over on the Liberals? Are they just not tuning in? Are they only listening to CBC and CTV? Because there's a lot of bias on those channels as well. I know that CTV is listed on Ground News as being right down the center, but I see CTV as being slightly to the left. CBC is listed as slightly to the left. I see it a little bit more to the left than that. So I just think that, we have to wonder where these people are really getting all of their news from, because it really, really boggles the mind how they can do that. And just before coming on here, I didn't clip anything from it because it was just before going live. I was watching. It was actually a Rebel News report, and I don't watch a lot of Rebel News, but this one reporter from Quebec, she's funny. I think she's funny. Alexa, and I always pronounce her last name wrong, so I'm just going to say Alexa or Alex or whatever. And she was outside one of Carney's rallies. I think it was the one he did in Trois-Rivières or whatever, however you pronounce it. Although my mother was French Canadian, I never learned the language, so excuse me. I apologize for any people out there who are laughing at my French right now. But yeah, she was out there interviewing people until she got kicked off the property and told not to interact with people. But there were so many people who were just completely brainwashed, and you kind of wonder, like, where have they been? I would suspect that more people would be pro Bloc Québécois in that region than they are Liberal, and definitely I think the Conservatives are actually getting a little bit of a boost in that area as well. So you never know what might happen. So the polls are changing around a little bit. The polls are showing that the Liberals and the Conservatives are neck and neck now, which is bad news for the Conservatives. Bad news because it's very possible see, the Liberals, they say that they have a more efficient vote. Basically, they have a more corrupt vote because their votes are stacked. The ridings are stacked in liberal areas where there's less people in the riding, so they have a lot more chance of getting more seats. So I don't particularly like that, but they say that they're more efficient. I say it's just more corrupt, but that's just kind of the way I look at it. You know, I'm really cruising along here in the topics, so hopefully a few of these topics will stretch out a little bit more, because I want to go to a clip that I actually had in my last video, and then I want to talk about a few things from my last video, because it does lead into a few things that I think we really should talk about a little bit more in Canada, especially since the last topic I want to talk about is really pertinent to this. If you think about it, it could be pertinent to it. But let's talk about how Pierre pretty much schooled a reporter from the Globe and Mail.
History from BCB News, Mr. Poilievre.
Yes, sir.
About the safety, street safety.
Yes, sir.
Many in the Chinese Canadian community are concerned about rising crime, but they also fear being unfairly targeted or profiled under criminal policies.
I'm going to play the clip just before that.
Public safety measures
the question just before the one that I really want to talk about.
Without creating fear or divisions among immigrant communities. Thank you.
Thank you. That is a very important question. We need to end the fear. After the lost Liberal decade, crime is raging out of control. Violent crime is up 50%. Gun crime up 116%. Drug overdose deaths are up 200% and almost 300% here in British Columbia. The catch and release hug-a-thug policies of Liberals have endangered our communities and threatened our kids. In communities across the Lower Mainland, parents are having to go to soccer pitches and form lineups walking down the field to look for crack pipes and dirty needles. And our families are terrified that their kids are going to step on a dirty needle when they go to a park. This chaos, this Liberal chaos, cannot continue. We need a change. And only Conservatives will deliver that change. Change so you can afford food and homes, but change so that you're safe in your street. And our plan is to lock up criminals with a 3 strikes you're out law, 3 serious offenses, and the offender will not get out of jail for at least 10 years. No bail, parole, probation, or house arrest. It will be jail, not bail. Second, we will repeal the catch and release laws, C-75, C-5, and C-83 that the Liberals and the NDP brought in. Third, we will bring in life sentences for fentanyl trafficking, human trafficking, and gun trafficking. It is in this way that we will bring home the safety that Canadians used to take for granted. Safety for you and your family, safety in all of these wonderful communities. I'll just conclude on one thing. Guns. Gun crime is raging out of control after the lost Liberal decade, up 116%, because Liberals have reduced penalties for gun smugglers and criminals and left our borders open to trafficking of firearms, all the while wasting billions of dollars trying to ban hunting rifles. They have spent millions of dollars without taking a single gun off the street. Enough going after hunters and sport shooters who have licenses. Let's go after the real criminals and secure the border. That's how we're going to bring a change. So the choice in the election is, do you want a fourth Liberal term of crime and chaos, or do you think it's time for a change with Conservatives so you can be safe in your community?
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning, Mr. Poilievre. Stephanie Levis with the Globe and Mail. Following up on that a bit, will you keep in place or repeal the current national freeze on the sale of handguns?
So first of all, let's be clear. Handguns are, after the lost Liberal decade, are legal today, legal to own, and easier to get than ever before. In fact, criminals are able to get handguns everywhere they go. In fact, we have more handguns in Canada after the lost Liberal decade than we ever have. The problem, according to the police, the problem is illegal guns coming in from the United States of America. So that's why the police believe with my approach in life sentences for handgun and other firearm traffickers. They believe in securing the border against traffickers and in mandatory prison sentences for those who use guns in violent crime. The police have said that the current Liberal policies just prevent off-duty police officers and military veterans from practicing their craft without going after the criminals who caused the crime. So my approach will be to lock up the criminals, secure the borders, and stop the crime for a change. And that's the choice in this election. Do we want a fourth Liberal term of crime and chaos, of growing gun crime, or do we want a change with a new Conservative government that will ban all illegal guns, will secure our borders, and lock up the criminals? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
Answering the question, are you going to keep in place the handgun ban or not?
Sorry. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Yeah, so he wasn't going to let her dominate the conversation, because he did answer the question. No, he's not going to keep the handgun ban in place because it's a stupid ban. But had he said the words, she could have used it against him. And if you read her column afterwards in the Globe and Mail, she, you could tell that she was PO'd that she couldn't use anything from him, not, or at least not that much from him. She wanted him to say that, and then she wanted him to say that so that she could twist it against him. That was what it was all about. There was even a notice or a comment today, that video I was talking about earlier, that Alexa Lavoie, whatever her name is, was doing. There was a lady at the Mark Carney rally who had unfortunately been in the Polytech shooting like 30 years ago now, and Alex clipped something that she had put online, and she actually said that it's not about illegal guns. She's not worried about illegal guns. She's worried about legal gun owners. This is how twisted people are. It's not about the gun, because the legal gun owners aren't the ones committing the crimes. And I wanted to expand on that like I did in my last video, not as in depth, but I want to talk about this new gun study that they did, or it's not really a gun study. It's a study of mass shootings in the States. And what I find is that a lot of people will, in Canada, will state U.S. facts and U.S. statistics, no matter how often you say, well, we don't have those problems in Canada because we have licensed gun owners. The licensed gun owners aren't the ones committing the problem, and it's usually all gangs and whatnot. But a lot of people want to refer to those U.S. statistics, a lot of the fearmongers and the anti-gunners, until you come up with statistics like this. So in this particular study, it was done by a couple of researchers for the Crime Prevention Research Center. And basically, they talk about how the FBI tracks active shooters. So it's not necessarily mass shooters, but active shooters, which means that it could move into the mass shooting realm, but that a lot of them were stopped by armed civilians in the States, which is really interesting that somebody actually collected the data, because this is something that a lot of people have been suspecting for years. And there have been numerous cases that have actually made the news, which is rare because the U.S. news is a lot like our news up here, is that they really don't want to promote anything pro-gun, or at least the leftist news is. So they do say that civilians with permits stopped attacks more frequently and faced lower risk of being killed or injured than police. And there's a very good reason for that. And that reason is that police end up being a target because they show up in uniform, and because they're in uniform and because they're armed and people can see that they're armed, those are the people that get shot first. So if I'm responding to an active shooter, of course, I can't just go in there guns a-blazing. I have to identify that target as a police officer, and that person may be concealing their firearm upon my arrival. They may be aware that I'm arriving and basically ambush me. As a police officer, as an armed civilian, or even a plainclothes officer, well, that might not really apply because the person doesn't know you're a police officer, doesn't know that the armed civilian is armed, and they can, they can be the ones who are being surprised. And because they were talking about this, let's bring up the next page here, the last page actually. They were talking about this, that the fact that there are so many armed civilians in the States, especially in constitutional carry states or in pro-gun states, that the reason why they are able to eliminate the threat is because they're present. They don't have a response time. Police have a response time. They're usually, in the big cities, response time is set at a goal of 7 minutes for priority one calls. That is, an active shooter would be a priority one call. They don't always meet that goal, but in a rural area, it could be 20 minutes, it could be 2 hours. When I was up in northern Alberta, some of our areas that we policed were 2 hours away, and when we went there, and sometimes we were alone on shift, so we would have to wake up another member if it was a serious call to come with us. So there's a little bit of a delay in that. So there's a lot of issues with that. So people show up and they, civilians are present and they can take care of business, which I think it really throws a wrench into the argument that a lot of people have who are really anti-gun. Now, I know that as a Canadian, even a lot of Canadians who are gun people or in the gun culture, they don't want Canadians to be armed. And I get that because it psychologically, it's kind of, out there for most Canadians. It goes against how we were brought up. I get that. I understand that. But I think that there's a few very good exceptions that should take place. For example, police officers off duty are not allowed to carry a gun. That sounds strange to some people. It sounds strange to a lot of Americans especially, but they're not allowed to carry a gun unless they get special permission from their, OIC, their officer in charge. Now, I did on occasion carry when I was a detachment commander in a small place, and I told all of my constables, look, you're pretty much on duty all the time. If you're available to respond to a call, you should be carrying. It was also an area that was infested by predatory animals, not just the two-legged kind. I'm talking the four-legged kind. So it was a good idea to carry a gun. So but you get to think about that. After 34 years in law enforcement, 33 and a half with the RCMP, is it now all of a sudden, because I've retired, is it now a higher risk for me to carry a gun than it was for those 33 and a half years with the RCMP? I don't think so. And if I were to be able to carry a gun, I could respond to incidents as they arise and deal with them effectively. But that doesn't make a lot of sense to a lot of Canadians who just weren't raised that way. But really, when you dig into this stuff, the risk to the public is actually less than when people are carrying guns. And matter of fact, in this study here, it also talked about gun-free zones being really unsafe, because that's where the majority of the mass shootings occur, at gun-free zones. So it goes against, counterintuitive to what a lot of anti-gunners think. They think that, it's going to be safer if nobody carries a gun, but criminals don't follow the rules. And of course, they're going to go and attack places that are gun-free zones, primarily schools. That's why you get school shootings, or events, there's a lot of people who carry guns in Israel, for example. But I'm assuming that at that event, at the music festival, that was probably gun-free, or supposed to be gun-free, until the Hamas came over the wall on their gliders and started, doing awful things to people. So keep that in mind. So how does this relate to the last topic I wanted to bring up? And this topic may run a little while, so maybe I'll even fill out the hour. You never know. But China now wants closer ties with Canada to fight the tariffs and to basically go against the United States. Why do you think that this, or why do I think that this would have any relation to the gun issue? Well, you got to understand where China has come from. They've been at war with the West for a long time. It's not been a kinetic war. It's not been a shooting war. It's been an economic war. And they want to take over the economic situation around the world. This is known that's what they're doing. And they started in on Canada way back in the Pierre Trudeau days. And they were getting close, because a lot of these socialists, I don't know if they were stupid or they were complicit, but they let the Chinese in. And I've talked about this in other videos, but it is a good idea to kind of recap. If you have the book Merger of the Century by Diane Francis, whatever you think of the merger, she does cover a lot of very good topics in that book. And one of the topics that she talked about is how China is pretty much trying to take over a lot of different countries, a lot of the agriculture in a lot of different countries in order to feed their own people. So they're sending the food back to China. They're processing the food. They'll even build processing plants in Canada, for example. As a matter of fact, one processing plant that they built, somehow they convinced the government to allow all Chinese builders and workers on this plant because apparently they were the only ones who were qualified. Yeah, so they built this plant and then the roof collapsed and killed 11 people. So that's how qualified they were to build this plant. It was stupid. But they did this thing in Sri Lanka years back where they pretty much all took over the food supply and were shipping so much food back to China that food security became a real issue in Sri Lanka. And I think they've resolved it since then because it was over 10 years ago. The book, Diane Francis' book, is now 12 years old, so it's a little bit dated, but there's a lot of relevance to it. So what might happen if China does, have closer ties with Canada? Well, we saw during the Trudeau 2 years, so Justin years, that he was allowing Chinese soldiers and Chinese pilots to train in Canada and get cold weather Arctic training. Why they needed it? Why do they need that? Well, that wasn't explained, but they were getting all sorts of training. And there were more than just soldiers and pilots. There were actually spies involved. And I think that Trudeau knew this. I don't think that it was I really don't think that it was a surprise to him or that he was oblivious to the fact that there were a lot of spies involved there. And we're inviting these people into the country and giving them training, giving a foreign military training on our soil, but it's not a foreign military that we have an alliance with. There are German soldiers in Canada, there are British soldiers in Canada, there are U.S. soldiers in Canada, and airmen and whatnot. And that's fine because they're all allies to us. But when you start bringing in an adversary, that just changes the game completely. What are you thinking bringing in an adversary? So what might happen if China has closer ties with Canada? We've already seen them trying to infiltrate our cities with Chinese police stations. And what that exactly curtails is hard to understand, really, because it goes beyond just your normal police liaison units. We have police liaison units all over the world, but they're there with the knowledge and consent of the country that they're in, including Taiwan, and Asia. Matter of fact, Japan doesn't have one because they use the Southeast Asian office out of Taiwan, for example. But those are liaison positions, and they're there with the authority of the country that invited them in or that they asked to be invited into. The Chinese police stations that are in Canada, that doesn't exist. That relationship doesn't exist. They're here illegally, basically being spies or secret police. They're not real police, they're secret police. They're intimidating the population. So we know that they're adversarial to our cause, and we know that they're also interfering in our elections, in our politics. We've seen, if you read any of Sam Cooper's stuff, I've talked about his book before, get his book, watch all of his interviews. They're great. Carney and Trudeau before him were highly compromised and really in tight with the Chinese. So what might happen? Well, would they allow China to build bases in Canada? It's not that much. That's not that big of a stretch, if you think about it. We have bases from other countries have bases in Canada, or at least they work off of our bases. The Brits and the Germans, for example, and the U.S. I think the U.S. are they have quite a bit of personnel up in Cold Lake, Alberta. I could be wrong about that. If somebody knows, let me know. So is it a stretch to see Chinese troops on Canadian soil? They've already been here. Is it a stretch that they may expand that on the guise of northern or Arctic training? It's not that much of a stretch. And with Carney being in bed with the Chinese, that's not, I don't think it's that much of a stretch at all. And when China is saying that they want closer ties with Canada in order to counter all of this economic war, I guess you could call it, with the United States, it's not that much of a stretch. And what do you think would happen? Now, if that were to happen? Well, I talked about this last week, how I thought that it was funny that one of my students would mention, or ask the question, what would happen if the United States invaded and I shot one of their soldiers? Would I be prosecuted? And my response was, you're not going to live long enough to be prosecuted. And, and why would you want to? They basically have an identical culture that we have. So why would you risk your life with really no benefit to it? And then I suggested, well, you might do that, or you would do that if you're fighting against, more of an adversarial, so like China or Russia. But then I suggested, well, they're not going to invade us either, but they might be invited in. That's the thing. They might be invited in by Carney. And if that happens, in that situation, I could see a kinetic war with the United States. I could see China actually maybe even trying to get a proxy war started. And I could see the United States having a military incursion into Canada, but only not to invade us, only really to save us. Probably to save us from ourselves, from the Liberals, but on the assumption that China is a real threat to them, which China would be a real threat to them. So I still don't think it's very likely, but I would say that the only possibility of a military incursion would be to basically come to our aid against China. And now that China is making these overtures to Mark Carney and wanting to get closer ties to Canada, I would say that it's not much of a stretch. How many of these wild and crazy things that we never thought would come true because they were just too outlandish, how many of them have actually come true since Trudeau took power over the decades? I mean, we used to think that Canada was so safe and not really a threat to anybody. And look what's happened in the last 10 years, and even before that, in the 50 years since 55 years or whatever since Pierre Elliott Trudeau. So I think it's actually not out of the realm of possibility that Carney would invite China in and would allow them to set up training depots in Canada. And those training depots would be essentially bases. And I don't think that it's as much of a stretch as what it used to be. And with that, I mean, how many of them would also be possibly, North Korean as well? Because, we hear that North Korea is actually sending troops to Russia to fight against Ukraine. It does kind of, it just raises your suspicions, raises my suspicions. So is it completely out of the realm of possibility that there could be a military incursion from the south? No, it's not. Would it be an aggressive incursion against us? Not likely, but it could be. They may decide that they need to, that they actually need to save us, and So I think that that's something we really need to consider. And what I find really funny is it was a couple of weeks back, liberals were talking about, I don't know what liberal it was, but it was a liberal talking about the possibility of us having to take up arms to defend our country against the United States. Well, how the hell are you going to do that? And why are you taking my guns away if that's what you think is going to happen? And no, I will not take up arms against the United States. That is completely stupid. That is the most retarded thing I have ever heard. Because think about it. If they came up, they're doing it to protect us and themselves, and their culture is so similar to ours. Why would you risk your life and everything to prevent what? It's not like they're China. It's not like they're Russia. So anyway, I think, I've ranted a little bit here, and I thought I had a lot of stuff, and I still have around 15 minutes or so. So let's go back and look at some of the comments and see what people are thinking. I'm going to actually go right back to, I'll bring this over here. I'm going to start with, I'm going to start with Rumble first, because there's not that much active comments on Rumble, so I can get to that pretty quickly here. So Outer Heat, you're from northeastern Ontario. That's great. I think wilderness carry is that's right. Now, when we were talking about carry permits, there's an option in Canada. You can actually get a concealed carry permit in Canada. It's very, very difficult. You have to prove that there is a legitimate threat to your life, and that is really, really difficult. They do give business permits out to people like diamond couriers and whatnot, but for personal use, it's very, very difficult. However, you can get a wilderness carry permit if the majority of your income, it says the majority of your income, I'm not sure how close they monitor this, but they say if the majority of your income is made in the wilderness, and you can show that you can't reasonably carry a long gun, then you can get a wilderness carry permit, and they're not as difficult to get as you think, but they're very restricted. They're restricted to a certain area. So I think that prospectors, outfitters, geologists, they are the ones that can get those. But if you're thinking that, I think that anybody who even hikes, I mean, you think about this, you can be an avid hiker and be in the wilderness more often than, say, a geologist. But you're not going to be able to get, especially if you're retired and you're hiking a lot, but you're not going to be able to get a carry permit. And how ridiculous is that? So that was pretty much it from Rumble. Let's go back and see what's happening on the YouTube. So we're just going to Jennifer. So you've been on Pender Island. I liked it there, although I almost got caught because of the ferry situation. But oh well. Let's scroll down here. You know what? I think I should go visit Pensacola, Florida, Jessica, just for the heck of it. And I've heard about it. There's a big Navy base there, isn't there? A training base. I'd like to see that. As a pilot, I guess I could say former pilot, but as a pilot, I'd like to see that for sure. Scrolling down here. So, Chris, are you on the Sunshine Coast right now? I thought you were from someplace else. Just scrolling down. Again, thank you very much again, Brad, for that. Here we go. So Michelle Simpson said, Carney is an opportunist. He doesn't care about the environment. He's a carbon pig. Carney needs to be held accountable. He definitely does. He burns more fuel than any of us do. I think that the only thing that's stopping him from burning as much fuel as Justin did is because he's in the middle of an election. So, yeah, that's my idea, my view of that. Yeah, when that voice goes high, yeah. See, Mark, I don't. Did you guys pick that up? Did you guys pick up that his voice cracked a little bit and then went higher in certain parts when he was clearly when he was lying or he was getting defensive when he was being called out on it. So Pam says, as David from Moose on the Loose says, when he is lying, he looks for a mouse under the podium. Yeah, he does have a few tells. That's for sure. Maybe he wants a mouse to be under there so he can scramble out of the room, screaming like a little person. Let's go. So I'm Justin Trudeau. I'm voting for Pierre, says Trudeau. Made me sick every time he spoke. Carney now is bringing up that same feeling. Yes. Carney is so boring when he speaks as well that I don't know. Being a politician, I don't think is really his forte. And I don't think he wants to be. I think he's just a businessman looking for opportunities to make himself and the WEF rich. I'm not even sure he wants it. I think he was told to do it by the WEF, but that's just speculation. My little conspiracy theory. If the Bloc ran a candidate in my riding, I would vote for him. He seems like the most honest and competent of the lot. As a bonus, if Quebec separated, we would not have to worry about PM's PQ. So where do you live, 3MTA3? I'm assuming you're not in Quebec. I just think that Yves-Francois Blanchet is funny. I don't think that his politics would line up with mine, even the ones that aren't separatist in the Quebec sense, but because I think he is a little bit too far left for me. But but I do think he's funny, and I think that he would be an interesting guy to sit down and have a beer with. I don't think I think a lot of politicians I wouldn't even spend the time, but I think that he would be interesting to sit down, have a beer with, have a few laughs with. Annette, I don't think I said hello to Annette, and this was way back, so I see that you joined in on us with us. So, yeah. This is going way back to the drug questions. Yeah, how about send the Canadian Armed Forces in to clear out the drug labs and the grow-ops in BC? That would be interesting. You're not really allowed to use military for police purposes in civilized countries unless it's an emergency. But I do believe that would be interesting. Now, there is an exception to that. My brother was on CERT for a while. He was on Ottawa ERT at the same time CERT was standing down. So Ottawa ERT is the emergency response team. It's basically what SWAT is, and that's in the Ottawa area. But CERT was a special emergency response team, and they were terrorist organized. Basically, they would do parliament and whatnot. But they were focusing on a lot of, the higher risk stuff. But eventually they stood down, and I believe they gave that to JTF2, which is military. I could be wrong about that. It's been a while, and I know that he's no longer, he's retired as well. So maybe bringing in the military for certain operations isn't that bad, but we've done it before. Has to be an emergency situation. I know that there were a couple of military guys. It was a standoff on a First Nations Indigenous reserve in the interior BC, and a couple of them actually got shot. But they're wearing their body armor, and they were okay. So they have been brought in before. And thank you, Liz, for reminding people to smash that like button. Yeah. Oh, that reminds me. YouTube is actively suppressing my videos, apparently. There's a lot of longtime viewers who aren't getting notifications, and they aren't seeing my stuff pop up in their feed. So the more you spread the word, and the more you like and subscribe and share my videos out, then the more likely it is that the YouTube algorithm will be more favorable to this type of material. I think that it's probably has to do with the content, that they don't like conservative content, but share it out if you can. Yeah. So 3MTA3, my ARs still sit in the closet, and my handguns are still in the same place, but at least I can use them at the range. The only thing that stops me from using them for bad purposes is me. That is totally correct. As a matter of fact, I was wanting to go out to the range tomorrow, but I'm probably not going to, because I have to clean the house. The house is completely, it's a complete mess. So I have to clean the house tomorrow, because I am going away on the weekend, and the wife is coming back with me. She's so I have to have the house cleaned for the wife. Unfortunately, my father's on his last legs, so we're doing this final birthday dinner for him, and sometime this year he's probably going to take advantage of the maid program. But not it's just life, I guess. Jessica, I've got 3 sidearms within reach right now. Can't imagine anyone trying to ban or take them. Well, you've got the Second Amendment help you out. We need the Second Amendment here. Whenever I have a gun within arm's length of me, it's probably because I'm cleaning it in the house or I'm at the range. Digger says, guns don't hurt people. Politicians do. That is true. Just like guns don't kill people. Fathers with pretty daughters do. That's a joke. That's a joke, YouTube. Hello, Paul. How you doing? I don't think I said hello, but note that you joined in a little late. That's okay. I know it was 10:30. It's almost 11 o'clock where you are, Paul. You're staying up late. Jimmy Had, I don't think I saw you on here yet. So you're on the ferry to Duke Point. Good evening. Wow. So you're coming to the island, are you? I'll be on the ferry out of Duke Point on Saturday. They're expanding Duke Point too, so I'm not sure how many ferries are going to be out of there. Timberwolf, how you doing? Tracy Dow, I don't think I said hello to you earlier either. Shot a gun once, Tracy said. 5 or 6 rounds, a Magnum, a handgun in a gallery at a wall with a target. Totally cathartic, cried. Well, Tracy, if we ever meet up, I'll take you to the range. I don't mind that at all. I know you live close, but take one of my courses. Why not? you don't live too far away. I thought you had a gun license, though. I thought you'd said earlier that you did have a gun license. Janet, how you doing? Yeah, don't believe the polls. They are a little wacky. Is what it is. I think, well, the Chinese dropped 2 vessels in Fort Mac back around 2005, killed several workers. Wow, I'm not sure what that's all about. Critical thinking is here. I didn't see you earlier. And, of course, you are retracting your messages again, so I can't see what you wrote. That's all right. James. How you doing, James? James West, that is. Diane F. How are you tonight? John Newman, I don't think I've seen you before here or tonight. Yeah. I think I'm almost caught up. I think I am caught up. YouTube is misusing you, not getting notifications again. That is the case. Well, it's 7 o'clock. I've gone through all of my rants. I really appreciate you guys joining me every week. I might be going live on Monday at 3:30 Pacific time, which is when I believe the election coverage starts live. I'm not sure. I got to check to see exactly what time, but I'm thinking about doing my doing a special live watch party broadcast again. I'm not sure how well that'll go off. I mean, sometimes it's interesting. I did that for the BC election. Maybe it'll be interesting. Hopefully we will have really good results, and maybe not. But if you want to join me there, I should be watching that live. And but you never know. I might be too busy because it would be election day, and of course I'll be spending time with the wife while she's over here, she's not with the kids, helping them out. Yeah, I guess I should get my act together and get this house finished so she moves over permanently. Oh well. Gov Code Reader, tuning in really late, but better late than never. Thanks for tuning in. I am going to sign off now because I do have some things to do, get a head start on the cleaning, and because I did want to actually do some more work on the house too, and the yard. So I don't know if I'll get that much done. Hello, Bonnie C. I don't think I saw you there before. Do not think that you'll watch the election. It may be a little boring, so I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to probably do that. Make some comments if it gets too boring. I don't know how long I'll stay on it. But yeah, look for me at about 3:30 Pacific time. I may be live. You never know. Anyways, Ludger, I don't think I said hello to you, or John Newman. I'm not sure either. So, yeah, everybody take care. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next Thursday if I don't see you on Monday, or if you're not here on Monday. Yeah, I hope everybody has a great weekend as well. It's really sunny here on the island. I hope it's sunny where you guys are. It's warm. I've been walking around without a jacket for a number of days, even though it's a little chilly in the mornings. So I hope you guys are getting the good weather as well. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. Take care. God bless.
You've been watching the Northwest Cavalryman Show. Thank you for tuning in this evening. I hope you've enjoyed the content. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and share with your friends and on social media. May God bless you. And if you're a liberal crybaby, bless your heart. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next Thursday.